opportunity to help build local power company capacity for offering clean solar energy to the Valley and across the Southeast region, actually. And now I would like to welcome Shubha Jashankar of the United States Department of Energy. Shubha?
Thanks, Chris. Today, thank you everyone else for joining this call and wanting to learn more about our Solar in Your Community Challenge. The agenda for this call, we'll first go over the program goals, and then I'll talk about how you structure your team, what the final prizes are, and then how you can apply, what the whole timeline is, and then we'll go through some question and answers. And you'll see at the bottom there's also a bullet for breakout session, but that would apply only if we were doing an in-person meeting, so you can ignore that part. Next slide, please. So let's start with a little bit of background. Since 2011, Sunshot has continuously worked towards its goal of making solar electricity cost competitive with conventionally generated electricity by 2020 without subsidies. Solar energy has seen tremendous progress, and today the industry is more than 90% of the way to achieving Sunshot's original 2020 cost target of 6 cents per kilowatt hour for utility-scale PV. Building off of the original Sunshot vision, the new goal for 2030 is to cut the levelized cost of electricity from utility-scale solar by another 50% to 3 cents per kilowatt hour. Sunshot will do this while also addressing grid integration challenges and addressing key market barriers in order to enable greater solar adoption. Next slide, please. So these next few slides will address why solar is important for low-income households. Next. According to the American Council on an Energy Efficient Economy, the median U.S. energy burden across 48 U.S. cities is 3.5%. The median low-income household's energy burden was more than twice as high at 7.2% and 3 times greater than the higher-income households. You'll see that on the chart, this bar chart here. And so in some, lower-income Americans pay a larger percentage of their income on energy. Tax incentives and other financial options are out of reach for many of the households. Next slide, please. So here are some benefits going solar. They're pretty intuitive. I'm sure you know most of them, but you can potentially save anywhere from 10 to 100% on your electricity bill. It can bring long-term stability to your monthly electricity expenses. It creates local jobs. It's local investment in the community. It improves your property value for homeowners. The latest study by the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, they looked into residential houses with PV on it, and for resale value purposes, they said that it could be, no less than 15%. The price of your home would go up 15% if you had PV on your house. So that's definitely a good trend. And then lastly, it's a clean source of energy, and there's no climate pollution. Next slide. So even though the solar market has grown tremendously in the last 5 years, it has been uneven, both geographically and demographically. In 2015, 5 states represented 72% of the solar market, and over half of the installed capacity is in California. Solar access remains overwhelmingly skewed towards the middle class and affluent households. Next. 49% of households face a number of barriers to going solar, including being less likely to own their own roofs, meaning if you are a renter or you own a condo, having less access to loans and financing, and being more likely to have lower credit scores. All of this information leads us to the problem statement of how to create new models to expand access to solar. And even though the investment tax credit has grown the solar market, it excludes individuals and organizations with no federal tax liability, which includes nonprofit and governmental organizations, low-income individuals, and retirees. Next slide, please. So in order to bring solar to these underserved segments, new and innovative business and financial models are needed. Sunshot is calling on all entrepreneurs and organizations to create, develop, and demonstrate first-of-their-kind models in order to quickly get to scale. One example of an emerging business model that can expand access is community solar, which allows multiple customers to subscribe to an off-site solar array. However, it has not yet been successfully applied to low-income customers at scale. And here you'll see on the top two pictures is what we're depicting as community solar, where members work together to enable solar within their communities. So it could be group purchasing, which is also known as Solarize, or you could put it on a church, and then it powers not just the church, but maybe the community center next door. But then the bottom two pictures are what we depict as shared solar. So participants own or lease their panels from, say, a solar field. You'll see the bottom left picture. It's a field of solar panels, and you can buy or lease those, and you buy kilowatt-hour blocks of generation, or you can own an interest in a shared system. So next slide. And this graph shows that community and shared solar are the fastest growing market sectors in solar. So it's kind of hard to tell the difference between these colors, but the darker blue you'll see is third-party led, and then the lighter or more royal blue is utility led. And you'll see a big jump from, since 2013, it's like really tiny with utilities, and then at 2014, 15, and then the first 3 quarters of 2016 is a huge jump. So it's a good trend. Next slide. So over the past year, Sunshot has been trying to bring this issue to the forefront. So this Solar in Your Community Prize Challenge was born from the work done over the last year plus with the National Community Solar Partnership, which convened a nationwide conversation around community solar barriers and best practices. This was in partnership with the White House and other federal agencies like the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the Department of Agriculture. The partnership aimed to expand solar access to all and includes over 150 partners from solar companies, nonprofit organizations, state and community leaders, and financial institutions. We held 5 regional workshops from November of 2015 to June of 2016. We first kicked off at the White House, and then we went to Denver, Atlanta, Boston, and Minneapolis. These workshops reached over 500 people, and it was definitely diverse. Denver and Boston and Minneapolis were a little more mature markets than Atlanta, so we had to kind of tailor our, we got a lot of different questions, and so we had to tailor our presentations and our responses based on, what's going on in each regional area. Some of the key takeaways included a strong interest in community solar from a broad variety of stakeholders. Community and shared solar are the fastest growing solar market sectors, and low-income households continue to be left out of the market, but they could be well served through shared and community solar models. The biggest needs are capacity building in financial institutions and governments, and innovative business and financial models to reach LMI income households. Next slide. So this challenge, which we launched in November, is designed to overcome barriers to LMI solar to catalyze the LMI solar market. 40% of Americans are considered LMI, which is defined by HUD as making 80% below your area median income. The project teams will compete for not only the grand prize, but small cash awards to seed teams' efforts and technical assistance, and they'll also receive technical assistance vouchers. Next slide, please. So here's some desired outcomes that we're looking for. The first is to demonstrate success for new models that expand access to solar, such as aiming to significantly expand LMI solar towards a goal of 1 gigawatt by 2020, and then tapping into the underdeveloped MUSH market, which is municipalities, universities, schools, and hospitals, including local governments and nonprofits that are ineligible for the solar ITC. Second is to build local capacity to support community-based solar projects. So this would be to introduce municipalities, utilities, and finance institutions to solar and serve LMI communities, giving them a means to reduce their monthly energy bills. And another outcome that we would like to see is to establish a network and a library of resources so we can give the participants the opportunity to learn from their peers, such as been done, for example, by EERE's Better Buildings Challenge. Oh, and lastly, we want to lay the groundwork to double the solar market and realize the over $16 billion in economic potential by 2020. Next slide. Great, so how can you participate? There's two ways. So you can either form a team or you can provide expertise. To form a team, everyone is eligible so long as the organization is based in the U.S., but it should include multiple stakeholders. And these can consist of local government entities, nonprofit organizations, community groups, et cetera. Teams can work to develop a portfolio of solar projects in their communities, or they can create new solar programs that expand solar access to LMI households and nonprofits. And in a few slides, I'll discuss what the difference between projects and programs are. That is a notable difference that you should keep in mind. As for experts, they will provide technical assistance to teams throughout the 18-month challenge by providing the coaching, expertise, and resources that the teams need to create innovative business models that will work. Experts can either be coaches who support the teams throughout the entire challenge, or they can be consultants who are subject matter experts. Next slide. So these next few slides are going to be for those interested in joining the challenge as a project or program team. Next. Teams will consist of a wide variety of stakeholders, as I mentioned before, and those would include, anywhere from this kind of combination: solar companies, key local stakeholders, including utilities, banks, nonprofit organizations, municipalities, and community leaders. And the teams will develop portfolios of solar projects anywhere between 25 kilowatts and 5 megawatts in aggregate size that will benefit LMI customers, or it can benefit nonprofits like schools, health clinics, food banks, community centers, or local governments. Teams can also develop programs that enable, incentivize, or support these types of projects. Next slide. So projects versus programs. Here's a more clear definition. So projects are new solar PV arrays that are developed with energy going to the targeted customers, again, anywhere between 25 kilowatts and 5 megawatts in size. And then programs are initiatives that will enable others to develop solar through incentives and attractive financing or other mechanisms. So essentially, for projects, by the end of the 18-month challenge period, we are looking to see, this energy being deployed with programs. You're not necessarily going to have all of the metrics for defining what a program is, and evaluating its progress are a little different because you have to put the program together to enable these projects. So if you have the plan all laid out, and you say by this time this will happen and then this time this will happen, like that's how we will define a program, whereas projects, we are looking to see immediately how much energy is being deployed. And so the energy and benefits must go to at least 20% of LMI households or 60% to nonprofits or state, local, and tribal governments. Next slide. So here's some examples of what a project team and a program team could look like. So for project teams, one example could be a solar developer partners with corporations to bring solar to 1,000 low-income families, or they develop innovative, scalable, and successful business models that can then be replicated by others across the United States. And another example would be a for-profit developer pursuing a 5-megawatt portfolio of shared solar projects for LMI subscribers. So these solar projects are with energy going to targeted customers. And here's some examples of what a program team could look like. It could be a state-run Solarize or group purchasing of rooftop solar campaign for public schools. It could be a community bank offering new low-interest loans for low-income homeowners to go solar, or it could be a utility initiative to put solar on local food banks and hospitals. So these program teams are, they're providing initiatives to enable future projects. The above list of examples is not exhaustive. Sunshot encourages teams to pursue new and innovative models that have not yet been demonstrated, and the team should build their programs and projects with the goal of aggregation and scaling up. Sunshot would prefer teams with plans to create long-term impact and a clearly articulated pathway to replicate their success over one-time only projects. In addition, teams should consider how their plan will lead to capacity building and learning within the community in order to make future solar installations faster and easier. Next slide. So how are these teams being selected? Sunshot will assess applications to enter the challenge based on 3 criteria. Both the impact and team metrics are quantitative, looking for replicability of business models, market potential, and team experience and execution. The innovation portion is a more qualitative measure, looking for new and creative ways to overcome existing market barriers. So you'll see they're mostly pretty evenly distributed. So impact is 40%. I think we're putting a little more weight on the impact because we'd like to see scalable models. So if you have, you come up with something in your area, we'd like to see other places like within your state and maybe even out of your state be able to kind of do the same thing. And then with your innovation and team, those are both 30%, and they're also both very important. But if you think you're stronger in one than the other, you're not docked as much because everything's pretty even. Next slide. So here's some information about the seed funding and technical assistance vouchers. The DOE will be awarding teams with the following either seed funding and or technical assistance vouchers. So with seed funds, we will be selecting probably up to 50 teams to receive these seed funds, and this fund availability is based upon your portfolio size, and it should be used at the discretion of your team. So you'll see at this chart here on the bottom, if your portfolio size is under 100 kilowatts, you'll receive $24,000 in seed funding if we select you. And then if your portfolio size is over 100 kilowatts, if you're selected, you will receive $60,000 in seed funds. And then there's technical assistance vouchers. So we will be selecting up to 100 teams, more or less, to receive these vouchers, and they're $10,000 to pay specialized consultants in the challenge. And you can access specialists through the online technical assistance marketplace, which has not yet been launched, but it is being built as we speak. So the remaining eligible teams that have not received seed funds or technical assistance vouchers, they will still be allowed to compete for final prizes, and they can still access the DOE tools and informational resources that we'll have available on our website. Next slide, please. So here's a breakdown of how seed funds will be distributed throughout the challenge. So the first 30% of seed funding will be given to you after your team is selected. And then at your first milestone, which is if your permit or permission has been received, you get another 30%. And then once you've secured financing, you get the rest of the 40%. Then there's a bonus of 20% if you have completed your customer acquisition and or you have, you have over 50% of LMI participation. So your energy is going to more than just 20%, which is the minimum that we put a few slides before. So if you're reaching at least 50% of an LMI community, then you get a 20% bonus. Next slide. So the teams will compete for $1 million in final prizes, which is awarded to the top 5 teams with the best performance and the biggest potential to scale up quickly. The grand prize winner will receive $500,000 and the runner-up will receive $200,000. 3 additional prizes, final prizes of $100,000 each, will reward the top performer that pursued nonprofit projects, nonprofit programs, and an LMI program. In addition, the DOE will provide non-monetary recognition to selected outstanding teams that have demonstrated innovation and superior leadership. So we were thinking about this kind of like, you know, in your high school yearbook, you had these superlatives like best smile, best hair, person most likely to succeed, those kind of things, but these will be a little more meaningful than those. Next slide. So now I will discuss the role of experts in this challenge. Next. Sunshot is looking for technical assistance providers, also known as experts, to apply to the challenge to either help guide teams throughout the challenge process. Consultants can provide either general or specialized technical assistance, while coaches would support teams throughout the entire challenge by being available to answer questions, assessing team progress, and providing the team with any sort of advice. As mentioned before, up to the top 100 teams will receive $10,000 in vouchers to spend on technical assistance. Next slide. So these experts can be in a whole variety of fields, some of which include finance, law, accounting, technology, policy, regulations, engineering, software, community engagement, project development, you know, you name it. So experts are encouraged to provide cost share or pro bono assistance to leverage DOE funds. Experts will support the teams and generate a diverse array of low-cost technical assistance options. And this will result in a publicly available repository of documents, toolkits, webinars, and any other sort of templates that, you know, for LMI Solar. So going forward, you know, these will be living documents and things that we hope that, you know, other people can look at and try to replicate. Next slide. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention in the last slide, you don't have to go back, but I'll just, you know, read through it and just reiterate why experts are so important. The experts are here so that the teams can succeed. You know, we are encouraging teams to have as many different types of stakeholders as possible, but of course, it's hard to check all of those boxes. So if you're missing one, you know, this is where you can make up that difference. And teams can independently select and work with their preferred TA providers, and teams can decide which services that they need and use their vouchers to pay for these services without an actual exchange of funds. The DOE and its prize administrator will manage the transfer of credits and reimburse the TA providers accordingly. All right, so that out of the way. Now, the funding mechanism. So with specialized consultants, they will be paid via the Technical Assistance Marketplace and will receive funds when the team solicit their services. Then the general consultants will be paid directly by the prize administrator, which is the State University of New York, and this will be based on the services they provide. And then finally, coaches will be paid in a stipend-like sort of payment. So if they support 5 teams, it'll be $10,000, and their commitment is 15 hours per month. And if they choose to support 10 teams, they would get $15,000, and their commitment would be 20 hours a month. Next slide. So now that you've learned all of the what the challenge is about, now let's go over how you can apply. Next slide. So first you have to create a team, and then your deadline for your application will be March 17th, so you have just about a month, a little over a month. And then the next phase is from May of this year to October of next year, and that's when SEED awards and technical assistance will be available. And then finally, final prizes will be administered January of 2019. Next slide. So if you are a prospective team, here's how you can apply. First, you will visit the challenge website, which is solarinyourcommunity.org, to register. Once you've registered, you will complete the written application, and then you'll film a short video, no more than 3 minutes long, to provide a short public-facing description. You know, describe the project or program that you're, proposing. Mention your team members and the impact that your project or program will have, how it will expand the solar market, and why you need to leverage DOE funds in order for this project to really get off the ground. For a full list of application requirements, you can visit our website. Again, that's solarinyourcommunity.org to read the rest of the rules. Next slide. So if you want to apply as a consultant, again, once you've registered, you will need to provide a list and overview of the products and services that you can offer, the price breakdown for using these products and services, and any case studies or other supporting materials that you might have. You can refer to the website, again, for a full list of application requirements. Next slide. And for prospective coaches, you will also need to register before you apply. And then after you've done that, you will submit a one-page narrative about why you want to coach and what your relevant experience is and the impact that you plan to have on your teams. You will also need to provide at least one letter of recommendation. And again, for the full list of requirements, you can visit our website. Next slide. So how are these winners chosen? A team of reviewers will evaluate the team's applications and innovations and impacts, and they will recommend the top teams to receive SEED awards, technical assistance vouchers, and a chance to compete for the final prizes. Final prizes will be determined through evaluation of progress over the 18 months, as well as the team's overall ability to create replicable, scalable, and sustainable business models. Next slide. So here are some frequently asked questions that we've received so far. First question, can I be on a team and also be an expert, meaning a consultant or a coach? No. You have to be either, you have to choose one side. You have to either choose to be a team or choose to be an expert. You cannot do both. Second question, can I be on several teams? Yes, but there are some options, or there's a caveat with that. You can lead one team but not participate on other teams, or you can be a member of several teams, meaning you are not the team lead. Or you can lead a project team and be a member of a program team, or vice versa. But you can, so for example, you cannot be a project team leader and then work on other projects. If you are a project team leader, the only other way you can participate in another team is to be a member of a program team. Right. And lastly, how can seed funds be used? This is at your discretion. Seed funds should be used to achieve the goals of your project or program, so I would not recommend going out and buying a Tesla with the money that we give you. I understand that's good for the environment, but maybe not the best for your project. Next slide. Great. So here's the whole timeline. Just look at it again, even though I kind of went over most of it. We released the rules on November 18th of last year. The application deadline is next month, March 17th. Seed funding and technical assistance vouchers will be awarded in April, and technical assistance marketplace will also open in April. The performance period begins in May. We do have a late start application deadline of August 1st, but we cannot guarantee that there will be any seed funding or technical assistance money left. That doesn't mean that you can't apply and still try to compete for final prizes, but you won't have any monetary resources from us to help you get there. The period of performance ends next October 31st, 2018. And then final prizes will be announced January of 2019. Next slide. Great, so that's the end of my little spiel here. I will be taking your questions. Just to remind you, there's two things to mention here. So a couple slides ago, I talked about some frequently asked questions that we've received. We've received a ton more than those, I can guarantee you, I promise you. And so we have compiled them into, we've sort of broken them up into themes just to make it easy to group them together. And we put a document on our website, so solarinyourcommunity.org. On top, you'll see a resources tab. If you click on that, the FAQ page is on the first row of documents. So if you click on that, you'll see it's about a 4 or 5 page document. So it's, you know, we've gone through a lot of questions that we received multiple times, and we've tried to provide as detailed of an answer that we could. So if you have a question that, you know, I might not address on this call, I would recommend that you first go and see if your question or if it's almost the same sort of question is there, see what the answer is, and if you still don't see it, you can send us an email, and the email address is solar.community@ee.org. solar.doe.gov. Again, I'll repeat that. It's solar.community@ee.doe.gov. And we check this inbox, once someone's always manning it, and so you should be able to get a response between 24 and 48 hours. We're pretty quick with the turnaround. So again, if you have questions, check out our FAQ document, and then you can send us a question via email if you still don't see it. But for now, since I'm on the phone with you people, I will take any questions that you have right now. So Chris or Kyle, if you want to start sending them over my way, I can try to answer them as best as I can.
Hey, and I just wanted to remind everybody on this slide here how to ask a question. So simply go to the top right in the Q&A and type in any of your questions. We haven't received any yet, so if anybody has a question at this point, please click that Q&A in the top, type in the question, and we will get to it ASAP. So, Chris, do you have any questions about anything?
No. Thank you so much, Shuba. That was a very thorough and informative, just what we needed. I will say, I know that most of the attendees today are staff for local power companies in the TVA region, and one of the hopes is that some of the goals of this challenge are actually very similar to the goals of the TVA Distributed Solar Solutions Program. So I'm hoping that this was helpful in to those of you who are considering doing a DSS application, or I'm sure if you're considering, you're well into it by now, and that perhaps these two applications could be paired to your benefit, because I think the technical assistance and the financial assistance, but especially the technical assistance that's going to be available could be very helpful in building your capacity as you build out your DSS projects.
And I actually have one more. I usually get this question whenever I go to these events. It's the first thing that anyone asks me, and it's not in the written slide that I just showed you, but a lot of people, understandably so, have asked me if this challenge is safe with the new administration and if the money's going to be taken away. And I'm just going to get out of the question, or get ahead of the question before anyone else asks. And, basically we have not received any sort of directive to stop anything that we're doing. So our leadership has told us, keep doing everything that, you have this money allocated in all these different programs that you're doing, so just keep working business as usual. And if someone's interested in, applying for your programs, please encourage them to keep doing so. So that's what we've been told. And I encourage you, if you're interested in this, please, do take the time to submit an application, because it will be worth it.
Kyle, do we have any questions coming in?
Yeah, we have a question here. It says, is there a case study of a project that has already been done that's available?
I actually have received that question a few times. It might be something listed in our document, but essentially we are not sharing any examples of, projects or programs that have, we had an early application deadline of January 6th, and so we have received some applications. We've reviewed them, and, some of them have been, selected to move forward, but we are not sharing that information right now until after the, the regular application deadline, because it wouldn't really be fair to those who applied early who didn't, have any sort of help or guidance in terms of looking at a case study. And so we're not showing that to the people applying for the regular round of funding. So we don't have anything that's available. We only have, I mentioned some examples of what a program or a project could look like. But of course, we don't want you limited just to that. We want you to, think as outside of the box as you can within, the constraints of whatever, you have to work in. So the short answer to that is no, we do not have a case study of a project that has already been done that's available. The longer answer is mostly because in interest of fairness to everyone else who's applied.
Shubha, do you think there might be resources online for existing community solar projects, or not just community solar, any kind of solar project that benefits LMI households or nonprofits, MUSH, et cetera?
Let me actually see what we have on our resources page, just because we have a ton of documents in there, but I just want to make sure what these documents all are before I say definitively. So we have like a community solar toolkit up here, and I believe this was created by, it will not tell me who created this unless oh wait. Oh, so we have another funding opportunity that we put out a couple years ago. It's called Solar Market Pathways, and so within this, group, some projects, some program teams have, come together and they created a community solar toolkit. So it's pretty exhaustive and, comprehensive. So I would check that out if you're interested. And then we have some federal resources that you can use for community solar. And these are resources from several federal offices that can assist you with developing your programs. We have, what is this one? Ooh, this might be good. Solar requests for proposals. This webpage provides an overview of how and why organizations can procure solar energy through an RFP. So where is this one from? I'm not sure. It doesn't say who provided this one, so I can't say. We have a fact sheet, a checklist, an application worksheet. So these checklists and worksheets will just, you look at it before you apply and just make sure you have all of these, you've done all of these things. And then if you haven't, you can go back and see how you can, fill that gap. And, using some of these resources, documents that we've uploaded here, you might be able to do that. Yeah, and then there's like some webinars that we've uploaded here, a community solar scenario tool, the DESIRE database, which is the database of state incentives for renewables and efficiency. Yeah, I don't think there's a specific case study, but there are a lot of tools here that you can take a look at.
Kyle, do we have other questions?
Nope, that was the last one.
All right, well, again, if anyone has questions, you can either check out our FAQ page on our website, and if that's not sufficient for you, you can send us an email, solar.community@ee.doe.gov, and we will respond to you as quickly as we can.
All right, well, thank you so much, Shubha, and thank you, everybody, for joining the webinar. I hope this was helpful, and I hope that it's catalyzed interest amongst some of you for pursuing this challenge, because I do think it's a way to bring some more capacity to the Tennessee Valley and the Southeast. So have a wonderful day, everybody, and onward with solar. Thank you, Shubha.
Thank you.